And we are live. Welcome to this edition of the Funvee Tailgate podcast presented by ThunderblogSports.com, a part of the Bullpen Cart podcast feed. I, of course, am the G-Man, Jordy Cannell, and joining me in lieu of the normal co-host of the Funvee Tailgate, Matty D, because he has a men's league hockey game, is a man that just has a certain glow to him right now. Because his team has won their 6th Super Bowl title. You know him. He is our friend, the great prophet, Mr. Greg Piatelli. How are you?
Cloud9, Jordy. Cloud9. Is there a better feeling than winning 6 Super Bowls? Maybe hopefully one day you'll get there, but
I don't know if within that range. I mean, the only one I can think of is the Jordan 6 titles in 8 years. That's the only thing. Or the Celtics in the 70s, in the 60s, 70s. They go into the 80s, all the titles.
Yeah, no one's touching Russell in his 9 in a row or 11 in a row, whatever it was. But Brady, more Belichick, the way he's been able to manage the salary cap and the way he's been able to just maneuver and dominate the league with everyone else's backups and trash is just simply, something special to observe. And everyone's talking about how it's so and so is leaving and so is a free agent and blah blah blah. And it's just like, guess what? Every single year we do this. Every single year the Patriots are rumored to get some big name. They never do. Every single year they get 5th and 6th round picks, 7th round picks, and then they sign some old receivers like Cordell Patterson. And guess what? Boom, Super Bowl champions. Not a big deal.
Yeah, number 6 for Mr. Tom, number 3 for Gronk, 3 for Edelman, right? He was in all three of the most recent ones. Super Bowl MVP, got him at 25-1. Not a big deal.
Yeah, huge.
The only prop I think I got, I think you and I were talking during the game or afterwards when the bet hit, but yeah, I'm pretty sure all my other props went 0-4. I thought some were going to hit. Obviously it being a 13-3 game, one that I took that I thought was going to be a sure lock was Patriots running backs touchdowns over under 1.5, and it was at 1, and only 1 touchdown. But
the whole
game, 1 touchdown the whole game. But getting Edelman there, having a little more money on him than any of my other props, came out net positive on the day. And I had Patriots minus 2.5. I was way off the over though, way off that.
I think you weren't alone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I also, hilariously, I have I downloaded the BetQL app a couple months ago. And it's nice. It gives you, a little bit of data where some money is and whatnot. They were sending me today, Greg, that a lot of big bettors opened up betting for the Patriots, but some money swung back for the Rams. And I should check out to see who I should bet on. So maybe I take a look at that, see if they're still accepting bets.
They sent you that today, huh?
Yeah, I took a screenshot of it. I was going to send it to you, and I got caught up at work or with my work this afternoon, and I forgot to send it to you. I might put that up on the blog post showing Wednesday, February 6th, 3 days after the Super Bowl, getting betting advice for a game that happened and notoriously lost people bet money on the over.
Here, bet the under.
Should have bet the under. Yeah, I think I did on like a Yahoo prop. Yeah, had one. I had one of those free prop contests. I think I got that right, but yeah, rough. Rough. I can't say rough because I had Julian Edelman. So huge. Shout out to me. He was also my captain on DraftKings. You ever played that mode, Showdown?
No. So not to talk about get away from your gambling, but the pure joy of another Super Bowl and the pure joy. It was a nerve-wracking game from start to finish. People want to call it boring, but I don't see it that way. I see it as a defensive struggle because you and I had talked about how there's going to be the Patriots defense versus the Rams offense was really going to be the key. And when it mattered most, the defense came up big and Belichick came up big. My only question to you is, do you think that Stephon Gilmore should have won the MVP. Now, here is why I said that.
Great minds, Greg. I was going to ask you that question as well.
He had the interception.
Yep.
He also forced a fumble. Granted, it went out of bounds rather than being recovered. But
remember that fumble? Holy shit!
That could have been That could have been another.
That could have been it.
Could have been more points. He forced a fumble. That the Patriots were there. They just didn't get it in time before it went out of bounds.
Kind of a weird roll on that. It looked like almost like a spin the bottle kind of spin, and then came out like a second later. A second later, it goes out. The Patriots had that turnover.
Exactly. So, I there's a strong argument to be made for him. Obviously, Edelman probably more so for what he did throughout the playoffs than anything else. But I thought maybe Gilmore, and we would have had our first defensive player since Harrison, right?
Yeah, didn't Teddy Bruschi run it too, right?
No,
he didn't win it when they beat the Eagles.
No.
Oh,
Deion Branch won it.
Oh, really? Yeah. All right. Yeah. No, this is one of those things. I always think that there should be some sort of like defensive MVP. I mean, they have it in regular season MVPs. They have an offensive and defensive, because there always is like that one guy who has a game and maybe not as much as the guy who had it or debatably better. You could argue you were already celebrating this. I thought maybe Michael Strahan should have gotten it in the first Giants over the Patriots Super Bowl. You could make an argument with a lot of defensive players on the Patriots.
With that one? I didn't see that one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those are one of the games Greg is thinking that they're still waiting to play. But anyway, on this game, Super Bowl 53, I mean, Kyle Van Noy, when he was on, he was just throwing around the Rams offensive line, who normally is pretty solid. And I mean, when the Patriots made the right choices to go after him, they dummied him around. So, I mean, I think Gilmore's probably your top choice of a defensive player that really could be in the conversation of it, especially because, I mean, 41 yards. He averaged over 14 a game. Same with Gronk. Gronk had a great game as well, but no touchdowns. I think if he had a touchdown, it's not really a question there, because say he gets that one that Michelle ends up getting, then it's probably no question that Edelman's getting it. But no touchdowns. There's definitely a toss up there. I obviously am I'm happy it was Julian Edelman, but when I found out it was, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it might have been Gilmore.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, Edelman is important, obviously, and he was important throughout the whole playoff run. I just personally would have liked them to at least, have a conversation about Gilmore, or maybe even give it to Brady, because last year they gave it to Foles when it should have gone to someone not him. But I feel like they just give it to a quarterback all the time without even thinking twice about it. But
yeah, absolutely.
Jordy, the big thing that I wanted to discuss more of what you're saying is the Patriots defensive line and linebackers really, like you said, dummying, but really just like manhandling the offensive line for the Rams. Like, there's videos all over Instagram and the internet. Like, someone goes to block Hightower, and that guy just gets put on his ass. Like, Hightower, the Patriots middle linebacker, just puts the Rams offensive lineman on his ass, like on the ground. And it happened time and time again. And the analysts are saying basically it was more of a physicality thing. It was the reason why they won, and the Patriots were just more physical. And the scariest thing about it is, Jordy, that everyone counted the Patriots out, and everyone had their doubts throughout the year. And I'm not gonna lie, after the Pittsburgh loss, not the Miami, because that could have taught. By the way, after the Pittsburgh loss, I was a little skeptical, but in the end, all that matters, Jordy, they won. The greatest quarterback of all time, the greatest coach of all time. And something interesting that was talked about today in Boston, Jordy. You want to hear this?
Sure.
Now, Robert Kraft, as an owner, has been well documented. He helped end their little, help negotiate this new deal so there would be no lockout, right? He took the Deflategate fines, even though it never got proven. He just took it just to save the league's face, even though the Patriots or Tom Brady's 100% innocent in that.
Yeah, there's a locker room guy.
It
was Matt Damon.
Right. And yeah, exactly. You got it.
Huh.
SNL skit. And
I think it was Jimmy Fallon.
Robert Kraft, turnaround, and Jordy, he has 6 Super Bowls as an owner.
And 3 post that lockout.
Yeah, exactly. And Jordy, he helped 6 Super Bowls, but he only owned the team for 3 or 4 years before Belichick got there. So he really turned this franchise around and really helped foster this. Everyone always talks about how awesome he is and everything like that. So the question is, Jordy, does a guy like that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame?
I would think so. They put owners in, right?
So that was my next point. Jerry Jones, who has 1 Super Bowl, maybe 2, if any. Does he have any?
I'm pretty sure he owned them in the Jimmy Johnson years.
He's in the Super Bowl Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the Dallas Cowboys having 2 playoff wins since their last Super Bowl title, and maybe even just 1. That definitely is a, what have you done late for me kind of question.
Jerry Jones has 3 Super Bowl rings, but
yeah, I thought he was owner during the Jimmy Johnson years.
He was, but he has 3. Or sorry, he was inducted in 2017. How is a guy like Bob Kraft not in? And Jerry Jones, who's always at odds with the commissioners, always fighting with everyone, how is he in?
Who votes on the NFL Hall of Fame? Is it writers?
I assume it's the same.
Yeah. But I don't know.
But,
I mean, that could be it.
But with Jerry Jones on the ballot, why is Kraft not even on the ballot?
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird with owners because it's not you retire and then are you out of the league for 5 years kind of thing. I mean, Gary Bettman just got the NHL Hall of Fame or the Hockey Hall of Fame, excuse me, and he's still commissioner of hockey of the NHL. And that's I mean, he's been overseeing 3 different lockouts, so there's that too. Yeah, I don't know. It's intriguing. I mean, I'm sure Robert Kraft's going to be put up soon. You'd have to think he's going to be, unless there's really some sort of vendetta that Goodell's still holding over him, which I would think it would be the opposite of Kraft holding it over Goodell, because he's still they were buddies, and Kraft still is holding the grudge, right?
Kraft was the reason why Goodell got his extension this past season.
Yeah. Oh, so they friends again after Deflategate?
I believe the way Kraft put it was basically that, we moved on, the commissioners moved on, and
okay.
His exact words was, Goodell knows he owes us one, or something like that.
Yeah. That's great.
And when you basically have all 32 owners eating out of the palm of your hand like Robert Kraft does, you can say and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
He has the power that everyone thinks Jerry Jones has.
Yeah, that's probably very accurate.
And you have to give credit to, like I said, the GM job of that Belichick did, but it was surreal. Went to the parade again. Have
you been to all 6?
No, not at all. I've definitely been to the last 2 because my office is right next to that where it was. I also went to the Red Sox one this past time.
That's awesome.
It was 98. It was awesome because on Instagram on Sunday, the big thing going around was end the Patriot and Boston's title drought. Has been 98 days since Boston's last title, that being the Red Sox. And
how about the baby? Did you see that?
The Patriots turned around and won.
Have you seen the 4-month-old? There's a 4-month-old. The dad was holding him in a sign. 4 months old, 2 titles, because he was around when the Red Sox won. I don't know how old he was. It was definitely less than a month. And the meme going around is that baby has more titles than a 45-year-old Knicks, Mets, and Jets fan.
Yeah.
That's like the ultimate dunk.
And you could argue that so that's awesome. Love it. Huge.
It took a second to kick in.
Well, no, because Laurel's sorry, I'm not sure who that is, but the so my roommate has a nephew who was born in August.
Okay.
And this nephew saw the Red Sox and now the Patriots. So he, being the nephew, is also 2-0 and also 2 championships. And everyone's saying that Boston's going for the sweep, as the Bruins are currently leading the Rangers 3-1 at the end of 2, and the Celtics are a mess, so are the Bruins. But the point is that has a city ever won all 4? No, right?
Not in 1 year. I think Philly's the only one that has had 4 in 1 year, which was 1980, and Philly only won 2. The Phillies, and then I'm pretty sure the Sixers got walloped by the Lakers, and the Eagles played the Raiders and lost, and
I would have figured New York would have had.
The Flyers was the first. The Flyers lost to the first of the 4 Islanders teams in that year.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah, New York might. I mean, way back in the day, like original 6 hockey, when the Knicks were super good. In the I'm trying to think how many did the Yankees win in like the 60s and 70s? Because there's some period where the Yankees didn't really win a lot.
I was gonna say, you just assume the Yankees always won, but it has to come down to the Rangers and the football teams, because the Jets only won 1, and the Giants only have the 2, right?
What was the Namath predicted it? 1969. So maybe that year.
Yeah, I don't know. It was the second year, but Jordy, any other Super Bowl questions or takeaways? You saw. I don't know if you saw.
Can I pat myself on the back by asking you right when the World Series was starting if we thought that we could continue LA versus Boston? I don't think. Now I'm gonna amend myself. I don't think we're gonna get to all 4 because of what the fucking Lakers and Clippers are doing in basketball, specifically that, and the Kings stink. But
I mean,
shout out to me,
yeah,
for at least getting another LA Boston.
Yeah, no, you're right. You nail on the head there, bud. Good for you.
Yeah,
now,
pat on the back. Did you go to any? Let me ask you this: did you go to any Patriots games in the playoffs?
Did you see McVay? Oh no, they only had 1 home playoff game.
Oh, that's right. They were on the road for the AFC Championship game. Now, the reason why I was asking for that is I want to, and I was close last year. If the Phillies made the playoffs, I would have gotten it. I want to do all 4 major sports playoffs games in 1 year.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was close, but the Phillies blew it, as we know. What did I see McVay do?
Did you see McVay say, basically, he said,
we got out-coached?
Yeah, he's like, I'm so sick to my stomach. Still, like 3 days later, I just got out-coached, and he's basically like, I feel like shit.
I'm so happy because I said this to you. I said it to Matt that I wanted the Rams not to win so that McVay doesn't become the next darling of the NFL, and I didn't want Jared Goff getting up there. Jared Goff looked terrible. He looked like he heard Gladys Knight sing the national anthem for so long that he was just still listening for another Brave to be sang. And McVay, the McVay face that he had from the Eagles game back in December, that was just the whole game. It was great seeing that on the sideline. It makes me as an Eagles fan happy because A, they're in their heads. B, who knows how he's going to respond?
Are the Rams really an Eagle rival? Like, let's not.
No, they try to fabricate that because the Wentz Goff 1-2.
I was gonna say, let's make that a thing. Plus,
but they're. I mean, no, the Eagles didn't win the division, so we don't have to play them next year.
Plus, Jared Goff looks like Ryan Gosling. That was something that my roommate brought up during the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's a good-looking guy.
Yeah,
I'm not going to deny that.
So McVay, right?
Mm-hmm.
I almost want to say this makes him more dangerous, whereas you're using it as he's done.
Oh yeah, he could. No, I'm not saying he's done. I'm just saying
I'm going to use this as more dangerous.
You think he's going to go full Belichick of turn around and we're going to be where just planning for the next one and we're getting ready to go, that kind of thing?
No, I think you lose, or sorry, you learn more from losses, right? And so going into the Super Bowl, it was all about him and all about how like he was the storyline for LA. There was no, Patriots storyline was Brady and the six and Gronk retiring and how awesome everyone is. The story for LA was McVay.
That's true. That's
You
very
know,
true. That and like CJ Anderson's redemption.
but like Aaron Donald just won Defensive Player of the Year, and barely any talk about it, right?
Yep.
And Ndamukong Suh, also another one of those players that has been dominating the D line forever. And Todd Gurley is arguably top 5, if not top 2, running back in the NFL. And Brandon Cooks, 3 teams, 3 Super Bowls, or no, 2 back-to-back Super Bowls, and he was on the Saints. Like one of the best receivers had 1,000 yards with each team in the last 3 seasons. 3 teams, 3,000-yard seasons. Like first time that's ever done. Like so many storylines, and what they talked about was McVay. So you could argue that McVay's head might have gotten a little big, right? And this loss is almost like a taste of humble pie.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, it probably is going to be. I was just more making myself feel better.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're going to be back. Their defense is still solid. They still got a lot of guys, including Aaron Donald,
Did
under contract.
No, did they sell the farm to make it this year?
No, they didn't. I don't think they let up. I think Dante Fowler's the big acquisition, and they didn't really let up a lot for him. I think it was a 3rd rounder.
Is there any other? Are they losing anyone?
I don't know. I don't know what their impending free agents look like. I don't think it's that bad though.
And then I guess the final question is, or would be, Cooper Kupp.
What about him? He was hurt?
If he was healthy.
Oh, how would it have done? I don't know. I don't know if that makes a huge difference or not. Because Goff, like, they couldn't get their running game going, which usually is how they spread it out for Goff to get all of his wide receivers involved. And it just comes down to that front 7, like we were talking about before, just really manhandling them. They only got 65 yards of rushing offense. And it was 37 at halftime of total offense.
It's a great point. Yeah, they ended with under 100, right? Total or no?
No, I think they got to 100. Yeah. Jared Goff at 229 through the air.
Yeah, but
yeah, 62 yards rushing and under 229 from Jared Goff in terms of passing yards. So yeah, they were under 300, but I mean, I think again the Patriots defense stepped up big where they needed to, and I think that's what the difference maker was. So I don't know if Cooper Kupp plays, is that the difference maker?
That's true. Another wild thing to think about is the stat that the Patriots in every single one of the Super Bowls have never scored more than 3 points in the first quarter.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Isn't that?
I couldn't believe, and it makes sense because of how many close games, especially early on, there were, that this is the first Patriots win, or first Patriots Super Bowl in the Tom Brady era, that was greater than a 1 possession difference.
Oh yeah, every single one. And it was all 3 points or less until the Eagles won by 4, or the Giants won by 4 on the Hail Mary.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's never once. We were talking about that. Never once was it not a close game, and
yeah,
you could argue this. I mean, the Patriots dominated from start to finish. So reality was that's the thing that scared me the most about the game, Jordy, was that the Patriots were dominating so much, but they had no points to show for it. So
yeah,
you can dominate a game, but if you don't score points, like it's moot. So for me, the biggest nerve-wracking, or the most nerve-wracking part was like they deserved to win. They outplayed them in every asset.
Yeah.
And all Jared Goff, they were still made field goal and onside kick away from throwing a Hail Mary to tie the game.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
Like that.
I mean, they almost got the field goal too, but then what's his face?
I'm saying
his face just hoods that kick.
Yeah, if he hits that field goal, Jordy, then we're talking about an onside kick, and if they get the onside kick, that's a Hail Mary to potentially tie the game.
Yeah.
So
he looks like me with a 3-wood off of the tee.
Hey, at least it was straight.
What was straight? My 3-wood? No, I put
his shot was straight. It was never straight. in between the
No, it
pipes.
curved a little bit. It curved away at the very end.
But I'm saying it didn't even start out in the pipes. It was staying wide.
No. Yeah, it was always OB. So I was getting that one stroke penalty.
Yeah. You see what'd you ask me? You asked me if I went to the Super Bowl. Where did you watch the game, Jordy?
So it's interesting you ask. I was in Phoenix this past weekend, and I was flying back, and our flight was supposed to take off at 11:45 Arizona time, 1:45 Eastern time, or no, 10:45 Arizona time, 12:45 Eastern time. We're supposed to land at 5:30 Eastern. Our flight gets delayed an hour. I forget why. Both my flight there and my flight back got delayed. Really annoying shit. But so I land as the game is starting. So I'm paying attention to it on my phone, which I was happy about because I didn't get to pay attention to the end of the golf tournament. Although the guys I was on the trip with sat behind a woman who was streaming it on the flight, so they got to watch it. That wild, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But yeah, then I ended up Ubering over to a friend's house. Third girl was over there. Her one roommate from college and her husband were hosting a party. Watched it there. Got to see the commercials. Got my hopes up a little bit because there was a rumor the MLB The Show trailer was going to drop, and everybody was thinking that's how Bryce Harper was going to make his announcement and see if the Phillies actually got him or if the billion other teams that he's allegedly met with in the last week and a half somehow stole him. But alas, that didn't happen. And that trailer came out a couple days ago, and there's still no announcement on Bryce Harper. But yeah, the overall Super Bowl experience, pretty good. I mean, the game, it was a defensive struggle, and if you're not a big fan of that...
What did they do for the cover?
For which cover?
The MLB The Show.
It's still Bryce Harper in his hoodie. They haven't announced the actual cover yet.
That's awesome.
They've just shown a trailer and like gameplay trailers and everything. The game comes out in like a month, in like 5 weeks. And there's no word because he isn't named a team yet. They probably have some sort of rendered picture of him like in a Phillies jersey and a Red Sox jersey, obviously already in a Nationals jersey, Cubs, Yankees, Dodgers, Giants, Padres, whomever. Right. They probably have those already rendered and ready to go. Probably the same exact image, but just a jersey over it. But he has to make a decision. We need to hear.
Right. It's not
like they can just decide to pick like
anyway,
Pomerantz because he decided to go somewhere.
What was your favorite?
Hilariously, one last note. They show Andrew McCutchen as a Philly, and they have the wrong number for Andrew McCutchen in the trailer. Not the number the Phillies gave him.
Nice.
I found it funny.
What wait, he's on the Phillies now?
Yeah, the Phillies picked him up.
Whoa.
Yeah, a little free agency, gave him a little veteran deal. Hopefully a nice little we'll talk about this when we get to our preview podcast on the bullpen card.
Question, Jordy.
Yeah.
What was your favorite commercial?
Ooh, that's a good question. I really like the NFL one. The 100th season commercial. I thought that was probably that was up there. A lot of fucking T-Mobile commercials. A little too many of those. A lot of cell phone ads. So I'm a little bummed about. I like the Budweiser one with the Clydesdales and the windmills. I thought that was pretty cool. What other ones were there?
So
I missed some of the good ones. Apparently there was one with the Backstreet Boys. I missed that one.
My favorites, before you take them all, I had 3.
All right, rank them.
My number one favorite was the Bud Light commercial where they are rolling around the barrel of corn syrup to the different brewing houses.
Oh yeah.
And they're like they roll it to Miller Lite, and they're like, nope, not us. Like, we got our shipment yesterday. They roll it to somewhere else, and then they show them like crossing the ocean and going through the mountains and ending up at Coors Light in the middle of like what's supposed to be Denver or whatever. But it's so funny because it's just like, no, we've been looking for our corn syrup. Yeah.
Did you see that Miller Lite got super triggered by that ad?
Yeah, Miller Lite got triggered by it, and like the corn makers of America, because they're like, corn's such a big industry. How could you do that to us, or something dumb like that? Like but like, no, we're just trying to show the difference between our beer and their beer.
Trying to show our alcoholic beer that has a lot of carbohydrates doesn't have it from corn syrup. That's what they're proving.
Honestly,
they're trying to show that they're healthy.
It's a genius. It's a genius marketing tool. It's a genius marketing thing because like that's why they did the whole nutritional fact thing in the first place.
Oh yeah.
Which
I always love that. Like, I think it's Heineken has done that. Has done this for years, and it like makes a point to put in bold that it has like a gram of protein.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, you're regaining some muscle by drinking Heineken.
Nice. So that's my number one.
Okay,
My number two was the Game of Thrones preview with the Bud Light guy.
yeah, the Bud Light Night.
Ugh,
That was great.
unreal. And the Mountain shows up and they're jousting. And the Mountain from Game of Thrones knocks the Bud Light Knight off of his horse, and then proceeds to squeeze his head into submission. And then one of the dragons shows up and burns the king and all that, and the wizard and everything.
There was I think it was Binge Mode put out a tweet saying Drogon's more of a craft beer guy, and just has the screenshot of him burning it down.
That's awesome. That's hilarious. Yeah. Nice. And then my third Jordy was one of those commercials, like the T-Mobile one, where the dad's texting the daughter, and it's like,
oh yeah, that one was great.
Yeah, it could be a son, and it's an eggplant recipe, and the son or daughter is like, Dad, this is like,
Dad, it's me.
Dad, this isn't Google, like this is me. And then he goes, oh, sorry, my bad. And the next text is eggplant parm recipe. And the guy's like, dude, I'm not Google. And the dad's like, oh, sorry again. He types in a third time, and then eventually the kid's just like takes a screenshot of the eggplant parm recipe and sends it to the dad via the text message. And it's just a classic.
That was pretty great. I forgot about that one. There was I think that's like, it's like me with my prop bets. As long as the one hits, you're doing fine.
Right. So yeah, I mean, honestly, but I personally like the rolling of the beer one. But I think yeah,
Game of Thrones I think was the winner of the night. Everybody seemed to like that one.
Yeah, I mean the NFL one that you were talking about was good, but it just went too fast. You couldn't see all the, you know what I mean? You couldn't see all the different people.
Oh yeah. That's definitely the NFL wants you to go back on YouTube and watch that. I think it's also though they wanted to like, because they definitely showed more of like Odell Beckham Jr. doing the catch, Saquon Barkley, doing the hurdle. They show Tom Brady with his rings, which now, Greg, this commercial is now retro because it shows him with 5 rings.
Out of date.
What are they going to do?
Out of date.
Yeah, it's out of date. They show Gronk, they show Marshawn Lynch. So like there was definitely more of a like trying to get little kids, I think, more interested in it. But they have Franco Harris. They have a lot of great guys. I mean, I thought, and you probably wouldn't agree, but I thought the Peyton Manning, oh man, that hurt. I thought that was pretty funny.
What do you say?
He throws it and it goes like, oh, he still got it. He goes, man, that hurt. I forget who he threw it to, but yeah, he throws a nice tight spiral. And someone says to him that, and
Peyton Manning's not funny, but
yeah. I know you're a that's why I was trying to move on from it quick.
Honestly, he used to have some funny commercials, but like chicken parm, all that nonsense. But
he didn't have his. Oh no, he did have with Luke Bryan right this year. He's still on the.
Yeah, I hate those.
Nationwide commercials.
Those are not good.
Yeah, they are not funny. He's trying way too hard in those.
Agreed.
Where they should get them those nationwide policy for the baby shower. Right. It's going to be walking,
so
it's better than clothes.
Last thing from the Super Bowl. Tom Brady, GOAT, first ballot Hall of Famer. Belichick, GOAT, first ballot Hall of Famer. Tell me about your weekend at the Waste Management Open. I've personally followed along via the Insta story at Thunder BLG and followed also via the Instagram post, also Thunder BLG on Instagram.
Thunderblog Sports on Instagram. Thunder BLG is our Twitter.
Ooh, way off. So I followed it. I followed it on Thunderblog Sports on the story on Instagram.
And it's now a highlight, or some of it is. I curated through some of them.
Ooh, big word. But yeah, I was watching live. No, obviously not live because you're up. Looking like you're up at like 4 a.m. But give me a little recap. Give me a little breakdown. And I know you were talking about one hole being just as cool as the 16th or whatever, but give us a quick synopsis of your overall experience just at the tournament.
Yeah, so we were down there. We got down Thursday night, but we went to the tournament on Saturday. And we, as Greg said, we got up at 4 a.m. Arizona time, so it's 6 a.m. Eastern, to get to the tournament in line at 4:30. We're in line and everything. They don't open the gates, Greg, until 7 a.m. So we're standing there for 2.5 hours in this crowd of people. We actually beat a good amount of people to the tournament. And there were some people who got ahead of us, people that were in costumes. There were a bunch of guys who were in Sesame Street onesies and in full costume that the Golf Channel kind of picked out and pulled them up and got them to the front of the line to interview in line, as well as you could hear them getting interviewed inside of the 16th hole. But everybody that shows up that early is going to 16. So the gates open at 7. And Greg, I want you to imagine coming back to Game of Thrones in the Battle of the Bastards episode. Remember right before Jon Snow gets saved by the Knights of the Vale and he's just in that pile of people getting pushed around. That's what this is like. In that first 2 minutes, you're getting it doesn't feel like your legs are moving. It feels like you're just getting moved through a pile and you're squeezed so tight. So, and you don't really have a control of going left, right, back, forward, anything.
So are people sprinting at this point?
So once you get through the gate, it's a dead sprint, and not a dead sprint. You want to jog, fast jog, a couple sprints, but you don't want to. It's a long run. You're running. You have to go underneath the road, and you get popped out at the 18th hole. You have to sprint down 18, down 17, and then over to the 16th hole. So it's. I mean, both of those holes. 18's a pretty long par 4. 17's a short par 4, but still, I mean, it's 1,000 yards. It's a good amount. I mean, you're going around it too, so add a little more there. So it's decent sprints. You want to sprint, jog, all that good stuff. So back to us trying to get into the gate. We are getting pushed through, and all of a sudden we see one of the attendants, this girl who couldn't be more than 25, not a very big girl, pretty small. And she's just yelling, stop, stop. You can see tears coming out of her eyes. And you're just thinking like, oh shit, like, is this her first tournament? Are people like, just, is it that rambunctious for her? And as soon as you start moving forward, you notice this big gap between her and the pile and the group of people. And I just gave it away because there was a pile of people. Some people tripped over the gates and a pile started. Yeah. So, and we noticed, basically, once you notice it, it's too late. And you either get pushed into the pile or you finagle yourself enough. My friends and I were lucky enough. Two of us almost went into the pile. And I was one of them. And I was lucky enough to kind of plant my feet. I can feel this woman scissor kicking and really just kicking around to try to get up. And I almost got knocked over by her. I was able to get around. Our group splits. There's 8 of us. We split up, and some of us took off. Myself and one other guy in our group took off. The rest of them, we thought they were with us, and I think they kept trying to find everybody else in the hecticness, in the chaos. And I lose the other guy. I think he went to one entrance of the 16th hole. I went to another. We both got close enough from what we had determined from one another. But the other guy is just, if you're not there, the line doesn't move because it looks like if you're there early enough, you can't tell how much of the crowd will really get in, especially because there are some people who are athletic enough to make the full sprint. Greg, there were a bunch of guys that were dressed as Hulk Hogan who couldn't have been, they were not built guys. Or probably what you might imagine a cross-country runner to look like. But they're running by us in character going, come on, brother, let's run. Let's get to 16. Hulkmania.
What's preventing you from saving seats for all your friends?
So you can do that. But the problem is, so say I had gotten in, they were going to be so far back in line that they would have been sitting there. Now, granted, the golf tournament, this is at 7:15 in the morning. By the time you're actually in line and into it, if I'd gotten into there, the golf tournament doesn't start until 8:45. That's when the first groups go off. So there might have been with people going in and out, but from what our understanding is that most people just sit at the 16th hole until the first groups get to the 16th, which there's groups that go off of 10 and 1, which is actually a good job on them instead of sending everybody off 1. I didn't realize this until the morning of, so that 16 gets play early enough. and you're not sitting there waiting for the first group to go off at 8:45, and then nearly 3 hours later they're finally coming through 16. Anyway, I end up our group text. We're not here. We're at the 11th tee, which is right next to 16. So I bail. The other guy bails. I meet up with them last. So if any of you are friends with us and you've seen pictures of Matty D at the tournament and you don't see me in them, it's because I was lost for a little bit trying to find them. So I'm the last one to find them. We end up talking to a marshal on the 16th or on the 11th tee, saying, follow the first group when they tee off of here to the 11th green, go to 12, which is a par 3, and there is now a grandstand that you can stand at. There's bathrooms, there's a bar, there's food. It's a really good option. So we see that and we're like, okay, great. And we look at 7:30 in the morning and nobody's teeing off for over an hour. So we go watch players warm up, both on the range and on the putting green. There's a nice little hospitality tent. We started drinking. We got some beers, some breakfast sandwiches. It's a good time. Got to watch a lot of people play because, Greg, the whole day was pretty loaded with talent up and down. Obviously, the last group of Ricky, Justin Thomas, and I forget who was the third in their group. I think it was Brandon Grace. That was pretty awesome to see them. They were the final group to come through. We stand at 12 throughout the day, and we're just seeing every single group come through. And eventually we start talking to some people. We meet guys who've been going to the tournament for 15 years. And they're talking about how 16, before they built it up into the stadium hole that it is now, there used to be a hill in between. Basically, it overlooks the 16th hole and the 17th tee. And now 17's built up where it's basically its own mini stadium on both sides of the fairway. Because if you remember this, 17 is the short par 4. You might have seen this over the weekend where it's drivable. You can get on in one and putt for eagle. It's a big eagle. Birdie's like average on that hole. You might have seen the video of the guy who was on in one, missed the putt left, and it went into the water that surrounds the back end, and he ends up with a double bogey. And then 18's built up that way too. So they were talking about just how much this thing has gotten built up over the last 15 years. And the structure that we were apparently on in 12 was new. But as the day went on, it just got more and more rambunctious. It was probably not just as fun, but it was still a lot of fun there. We start betting on just dollars on who we think is going to be the closest to the pin in every group. We're trying to get the caddies to race, which might have been the funniest part of it because they don't have the actual caddy races anymore where the caddies sprint. But, there were caddies who noticed that it was happening and like, the player would grab the bag from them. They'd sprint up and get it and get the crowd to go wild. Or the three of them would know we were doing it and they'd walk up to the green, almost step onto it and then step away and basically tease with us that way. But it was Greg, it was so much fun. And the funniest might've been Degenerate Nat just getting after it. There's a good video of him on there on the highlight of the WM Open. If you see it on our Instagram page, again, Thunderblog Sports, highly recommend it. If you're not down to go to 16, I would say this: you could show up at 7:20 and have the exact same day we did, and you saved yourself about 3 hours of waiting. If you want to do 16, go do it at 4:30. Just know to do it if you want to do it right. Maybe even go a little earlier and just be ready to run because you're going to have to.
But if people got there that late, would they be able to get, was it 14 or 16 like you did, or 15 like you did?
The 12. So that's the crazy thing is that we followed the first group to the 11th green, 12th tee. But then we watched another group come through the 12th hole and really probably about until, so again, they send half the groups off of 10 and then the other half of the groups off of 1. And probably it wasn't until the groups who went off of the first hole came through the back 9 that it really started to get crowded. There was eventually a line. So it would have, in the afternoon, it would have been tough. It was nearly impossible to get on to 12. But if you park there, I mean, we probably got to 12 at 9:30, maybe 10 o'clock. I would say maybe be conservative, say get there by 11 and you can have a great day. You see the 12th green. You have a really good view across the lake to see the 15th fairway, which is a reachable par 5. So you're seeing guys bring out their long clubs, the long sticks, a 3-wood, a hybrid, however far they have bombed their drive to go after it. You get 13T. You get a little bit of the 14th hole. You can see a little bit of the 13th fairway. And I'd imagine they'd probably build that up because you get a view of the 6th hole. But there's enough of a natural hill above it that there's a crowd built into that. So I'd imagine maybe they build this stand up that there's almost like a double view to see that eventually.
I mean, but isn't the beauty of 16 as a par 3?
Oh yeah, that's why 12 is so fun. Is that you have the par 3 and you get a really good view of the tee coming into it. I would imagine that they also build it. What was it?
Did you say it was a par 3?
Yeah, 12 is a par 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I would imagine so that the grandstand starts probably halfway between the tee and the green. I would imagine they probably build it up to go down to the tee eventually. Once they start realizing, oh, this could be another stadium hole. I wouldn't be surprised, Greg, to see if they eventually have all 3 par 4s, or at least the 2 in the back 9 to be stadiums. Maybe build something up on 15 to go with 16, which is that par 5, like I was talking about.
So, Jordy, before we move on here, give us since you're in Arizona to celebrate one of your friends' upcoming wedding.
And pending nuptials, as they say.
Give us one of the most appropriate stories, but craziest story you can tell.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we were there for a bachelor party, and we had some pretty crazy Uber drivers, Greg. A lot of unsolicited advice for things that you would associate with a bachelor party. Wouldn't not to say that we indulged in those, but we were given advice without asking. One guy proceeded, Greg, to tell us all about how he
was this Uber driver.
Uber driver.
Okay.
Every Uber driver we had, except for the woman who drove us to the airport Sunday morning to go home back to Philadelphia, gave us unsolicited advice.
Mm-hmm.
One guy proceeded to tell us about how he loves strip clubs and how he used to love cocaine. He used to just do 8 balls every weekend.
Wow.
And yeah, it got pretty wild from there. Talked about how one of his friends.
Did you ask him if he needed you to drive since it was the weekend when you were there?
Yeah, he said he claimed to be sober for 3 years. But he said the reason why I went sober is that his buddy that he did all the coke with was on some other drug and tried to come to their house to like steal cocaine and threatened to do some really inappropriate things. So the guy had to pull out a gun and scare the guy away, and then apparently the friend didn't remember it. So that's what got him to sober up. That was his come to Jesus moment.
Wow. Nothing like pulling a gun on your buddy and to make you stop doing cocaine.
And then the friend didn't remember it. Greg, what would you do if you pulled a gun on me and then said, "Hey man, I'm really sorry it had to come to that." And I said, "What are you talking about?"
I think I might have called your roommate /dog.
Yeah. Luna the dog would just probably be all happy. She's such a great dog. But yeah, I highly recommend going to the waste management. Depending on what your day looks like and how intense you want it to be. Either get up super early to try to get to 16 or get there right, maybe 20 minutes after the gate opens, and you're gonna have a great time. A fun event. I mean, it's wild. I've been to a few other PGA Tour events, and you can make some noise in terms of like getting excited over, a shot to a foot, but not chanting the guy's name to get him to give you a hat tip like we did with Charlie Hoffman, not booing a guy for having a putt or for missing a putt or for having a shot be short of the green and having to chip up. It was wild. Nothing like it. I've been to a U.S. Open. I've been to the old Pennsylvania Open that used to come through the Philadelphia area. And this was nothing like it.
That's awesome. I'm glad you got to go and experience that. I'm sure you wanted to tell us some of the stories from the bachelor party, but what happens there stays there.
Exactly.
So good for you.
Not saying we indulged in we took up any of the advice. It was just given to us unsolicited.
Good for you, and I'm sure your roommate Doug Luna appreciates that.
Yes.
Jordy, there were some rule changes today in a 180 transition. Rule changes. Was it officially or was it just proposed?
No, they're proposed. Some could be. So we're talking baseball now. Click a mini bullpen card to get you ready for when we start doing our spring training previews. Yeah, they were proposed. Some might be put into place for 2019. They have to come up to a vote. But yeah, a lot of different rule changes named or announced. Possibly the big two that are really getting to people, Greg, are a universal DH. So in other words, the National League would adopt the rule, and a 3 batter minimum for pitchers.
Ooh.
Now, I want your immediate reaction to these, and I'll give you my thoughts after.
So, this is the first time I'm hearing any of it. I didn't Google it, didn't know what it was going into.
There's a few others too. I can Google them and pull them up if you want to go through, but these are the two big ones.
So, universal DH, I personally am a fan of simply because of David Ortiz and all that.
Yeah.
However, baseball purists would argue, pitchers are athletes too. They should be able to hit, blah, blah, blah.
I'll give you the blah, blah, blah in a minute.
And then the 3 batter minimum. That's a super interesting one.
It is. It's very interesting.
Let's see. I mean, what if a guy gives back-to-back home runs?
Yeah, right. You have to let him pitch to another guy.
Yes.
Yeah. I think there's probably going to be some caveat of if he gets hurt. So are you going to have players faking injuries if something like that were to happen?
I mean, I'm not sure I like it. I don't think I like it.
Yeah,
I don't think I like that one.
So I'm on the opposite of you. I'm more meh on the universal DH. And it's more the blah, blah, blah of it. It's not that I want to watch a pitcher bat. I could give 2 shits if Zach Eflin strikes out twice and then gets pulled in the 7th inning. It's more just the strategy aspect of it because you have to really think about when you're going to pull your starter and how it affects your lineup. And now I say that, and I feel like I'm contradicting myself and being a fan of the 3 batter minimum, and I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, it's more of just the fact that you have to then think about doing, double switches or when do you want to pinch hit if you wanted to in the 6th inning. There's a lot. You and I talked about this a lot with Gabe Kapler pulling pitchers early because he pinch hit for them in like the 4th inning or the 5th inning. It happened to Jake Arrieta quite a lot, and he wasn't too pleased with that, and a number of different things there. So that's the one thing. Although last year there have been more compelling arguments. More specifically, there was one I heard over last season that was so many teams have invested so much money in both starting pitchers as well as relievers that it could be such a financial burden, especially for a smaller market team, they're forced into a position where their reliever has to bat. Specifically, if you're an American League team where you might carry more bullpen arms because you don't need to carry as big of a bench by having normally a DH on your team. There's also proposed of expanding to 26 players.
It sounds like you're giving arguments to have a universal DH, not.
Well, I'm playing devil. I'm just presenting the other sides and the arguments for it that I actually agree with and like. The other that I think is great, and this actually helps a lot with a lot of current economic states of baseball, is that a universal DH would open up 15 starting jobs, which I think that's great, especially for players over 30. I read today, Greg, the Mets specifically acquired Robinson Cano because they believe that the universal DH is going to come into play soon, whether it's 2019 or 2020. So that's worth noting of that there are teams that heavily are in favor of this in the National League.
So my question is, right now in the American League, can a pitcher bat, or does the DH? Like, they have to use a DH?
No, well, technically the DH rule, I think they could set a lineup where they could have the pitcher as the DH. And technically the rule of a DH is this. So let's use JD Martinez as the example. Say someone gets hurt in the Red Sox outfield and they used one of their outfielders off the bench to pinch hit for somebody, or they've come in, and JD Martinez has to enter the game. What happens is, say JD Martinez is batting fourth and the player that he's substituting in for is batting eighth. What happens is JD Martinez is now the right fielder batting fourth, and this wouldn't be the example because it might be Mookie, but whoever the player he came in for who was batting eighth, that spot is now the pitcher's spot, and the DH is done.
So in the American League,
in any facet of baseball, that's a part of the DH rule.
Okay,
so it would happen too in the National League.
But
yeah.
if same scenario, they put a different guy in the outfield that's not JD Martinez, the DH is still good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if they had somebody that they wanted to put in there, or if you had somebody pinch hit for the DH, like say whomever it is, then the DH is still good to go. It's only if the DH enters the field that the DH is done.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then just on the three pitcher rule, contradicting myself because the righty versus a righty to immediately go to a lefty versus a lefty is a part of the strategy of baseball. I just think there's a lot of overthinking that gets done with that because there are numbers that support it. I think the 3-pitcher minimum, there's a lot that's thrown in there of Rob Manfred wanting to speed up the game. And there's a lot that really that specifically is probably the biggest culprit. A pitch clock has also been thrown around there and seeing if that could be implemented in 2019 or 2020. I think the 3-batter minimum helps out with that a lot. But I agree with you. I like it, but I'm not completely sold on it.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure there has to be some exceptions to the 3. It definitely speeds the game up, and it'll make someone think twice before bringing a guy in. But, what if they walk the first 2 guys and it's a 1-inning game in the 7th inning or the 9th inning of the World Series?
Yeah. There's definitely.
I think I'm out on that one, but I think I like the universal DH. But I'm not gonna lie, it was exciting to see Shohei Ohtani and that whole thing, and not that he ever pitched and hit in the same game, but it'd be cool if they did do that.
Yeah, it'd be pretty exciting to see it. Because it's not. I'm not gonna lie, it would make games more. It'd make the game more exciting. You'd see pitchers pitch more. Your starters that you're paying a lot of money to. You'd see less injuries from them having to run. You'd have less of. Granted, you'd have less base running errors. I was about to use an example, but they had a pitcher. The Phillies had a pitcher pinch run who made a base running error. Yeah, I wouldn't be upset if the universal DH got put into play. If you asked me a year ago, I would have been, but in the last year, I've come around on it a little bit.
Yeah. All right. I love it.
All right. So, Greg, last topic.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, or did you have something else?
Nope.
So, Greg, I need some advice.
All right.
The Flyers keep winning games.
Okay.
We've talked about this a lot. And, we did a podcast a week ago. And shout out to you. You predicted the Flyers wouldn't be trading anybody at the deadline. Granted, there's still a month to go, and there could be a big difference in a month. But it looks like you're going to be right. But how should I feel about this? They're now 5 points out of a playoff spot. And Clark Fletcher, the GM, just saying we need a little different perspective. And same with Scott Gordon, you just need to change his perspective, has now turned into the Flyers teasing a playoff appearance. How should I feel about this?
Carter Hart is in conversations for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm going to say. The teams above them in the standings, right,
are trending downward.
Are teams that no one predicted that they would be in this spot in the first place, that being the Sabres and the Islanders.
And the Blue Jackets, but they're really stinking right now.
So there's a legit shot that the Flyers get in. Because, as you know, the Flyers seem just like Pittsburgh. They all seem to make a run at some point.
Yep.
It's a state thing, I guess.
It's a
Now,
Commonwealth thing. Throw your
now
Bruins in there.
are they on
Commonwealth
that
buddies.
now? Is the question. Like in 2 months or a month, I should say, after their winning streak is over, right?
How do we feel?
Yeah, after the win streak is over, are you gonna be wishing that they, hindsight's 2020, but I I just think the fact that they didn't, the fact that they got rid of the GM and the coach leads me to believe that they're going to finish out the season what they have. They're going to keep their assets. The GM's really going to evaluate and let the new coach evaluate and see what's going to happen. And it doesn't seem like anyone's really interested in Simmons.
That is one thing.
Who was the only person that they were thinking about trading.
Yep.
So if no one's going to take the guy you were thinking about trading, what's the point? Now, do they go the other way and go get someone? But no, because they want to start the rebuild now.
Yeah. And they're starting to do a lot of that. We've talked about it a little bit of how they keep bringing up more and more guys from the Phantoms, which Hextall was too stubborn to do, and Clark Fletcher's been really great at it. And I should amend myself, and I texted you this earlier, that I should have realized when you asked me about Jory Laterra, that he hadn't played in a few games at the point that we had talked last week. I believe it had been 3 games since then, maybe just 2.
Yeah.
Maybe just 1 because they were playing while we were podcasting. But he finally got put on waivers today, so 5 games later. He'd been a healthy scratch for 7 straight games before that. And it looks like that might have been his last game, not only as a Flyer, but potentially in the NHL. We talked a little bit about his legal troubles. But so it's not sure of what the Flyers are going to do because they would have 1 roster spot open, assuming he clears waivers and goes to the Phantoms. Or it just gets picked up by another team, but I think that's pretty unlikely. There's talks about who would replace him, whether or not it be Brian Elliott coming up as a 3rd goalie for the team. He's been pretty banged up really since the middle of last year. So I'm not sure about that. Although I don't know if you try to send him down, I don't think he clears waivers. I don't know what you get for him. Or what, I don't know what degree you would get for him.
The fact that they had Carter Hart not take an All-Star break and had him play makes me believe that they want to play Carter Hart as much as possible.
Exactly. Yeah, they're all about putting him in. And I mean, Greg, it's a wonder because for a while, we talked about this when Ron Hextall got fired before Carter Hart got called up, that was one thing that fans, because the Flyers were pumping him up, and they're starting to do this now with Morgan Frost because he's still in juniors. Last year when Carter Hart was still in the Western Hockey League, every game, especially after World Juniors, showed Carter Hart had another shutout. Carter Hart set this record in the WHL. He set this record in the WHL. Flyers fans in October, November, when the Eagles were really stinking and it looked like they were going to have one of the worst Super Bowl hangovers ever, and the Flyers stunk. The Sixers hadn't gotten Jimmy Butler yet, so nobody knew what they were doing. People were like, where's Carter Hart? And it just makes you wonder if Hextall hadn't been so stubborn, could the Flyers be in a better position? Would Hart look this great and look this confident? Because, I mean, he's made the defense around him so much better. And
it says something, defense play with more confidence when they have a good goalie who they know, because it allows them to jump in the rush more. It allows them to take risks. It allows them to take chances. It allows them to be aggressive. And that's a huge part of it is the goaltending behind you. So
the crazy thing is that there were some games without Shane Goss to spare too.
Right. Now, do you think it's the system in terms of them being more aggressive, or do you think it comes down to the goalie?
It's definitely a mix of both. I mean, Hart saved 43 of 44 on Monday night against Vancouver. So, I mean, he's certainly, and I don't know if you saw his diving save where he took one off the forearm to keep the 2-1 lead intact. I mean, the guy is super athletic and shows he's got some special stuff there. I I mean, a couple good overtime wins. You know, a lot of close victories, a lot of close calls. I just think the team's playing better. And I think defense is stepping up. The offense is really showing it. I mean, you're seeing it out of guys that we didn't talk about in that top six that are really stepping up. Nolan Patrick, Oscar Lindblom's had a couple goals. Travis Konecny's looked great, although he's a top six guy. Which I mean, Travis Konechny was a guy last year who really stepped it up when the Flyers went on their streak in January. You know, and if you keep seeing that, especially Nolan Patrick, who we've been waiting to see what the number 2 pick from a couple years ago was going to do. And he's finally starting to get his legs underneath him. So who knows? First game against the Penguins is coming up on Monday night, though. And the Stadium Series game is a couple weeks away. So they're going to get some quality opponents. They have some tough road games coming up, but LA and Anaheim this weekend. So we'll see.
So dumb, by the way, that one team's wearing all black, one team's wearing all white.
Oh yeah, no, it's all orange and all yellow. You didn't see the actual jerseys. The Flyers are all orange.
So what were the all whites and all blacks?
Are you looking at the All-Star game jerseys? They were all black and all white.
Maybe I haven't seen the jerseys then.
Yeah, they're not good.
We saw the Flyers one.
Yeah, the Penguins is all yellow. It's not, or maybe theirs is all black. But neither are very good. They're trying to bring color rush to the NHL, and it doesn't look. It's not like color rush in the NFL. They did not do it right.
Doesn't look good. Mm-mm. Yeah. So what's your big? Is that your big surprise question?
Oh yeah, it was an emergency 2 days later after their 8th straight win. What do I do? Where do I go from here?
The big surprise was asking me how right I was yet again.
Yeah, well, Craig, gotta pump the profit up. It started with celebrating the Patriots, and it ends with you calming me down about my team.
Yeah, no, Jordy, I think it's you see it for what it is, right? And this might be a rebuild on the fly, but it could also be that same we're caught in limbo.
And that's why I wanted to ask you is because
adding fuel to the fire. And while the playoffs are cool, do you think that this team really is going to win it all? Is Carter Hart enough for you to be like, okay, we're going to win the title because of Carter Hart? Like, not necessarily. So my only caveat to what this whole thing is, if you're going to rebuild, go for it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that they have guys in the Phantoms that are finally getting their shots. They have Morgan Frost, who's still in the queue. And I'm sure he's going to be an immediate NHL training camp invite next year. So you got guys that are there. It's just a fact of, is that enough? And I think that just remains to be seen. And the fact that they're finally letting these young guys have a shot is just encouraging.
Yeah, and you've been saying that all season or all year that you wanted the younger guys to be called up.
And it's why Ron Hextall got fired, because he wouldn't. He still kept guys like Laterra, like Weiss, like Wheel, all these guys who the Flyers are finally moving around either away from the team or down to the Phantoms. And, it's nice to see. It's nice to see these guys get their opportunities, because last year in training camp, it looked like they were going to have a young team, and they still had these old guys, these oldie moldy dudes hanging around. And the young guys that were in the NHL team were, not disappointing, but they didn't have the greatest seasons. It's tough to say disappointing when you're a playoff team and you had some offensive spurts from your bottom six. But, this year, at least, we're starting to see that come around. I'd like to see them score a few more goals, although they're right in the middle of the pack in terms of some teams in the Eastern Conference. They're scoring more than a division leader. So that's good news. But it's really just it's a matter of how consistent can the defense get, because their goals against is still astronomically high. So is it they're going to be this team that's going to grind you out like they've been the last couple games? Or are they going to turn into a team that, can win a 7-4 game like they did at the start of the win streak against Minnesota. It's just a matter of finding that identity.
If I were you, I wouldn't want to be a team that's constantly caught in limbo. So if you have all these young studs, you have all this young talent, let's go full force. Let's steer into the skid and let's bring them all up,
Oh yeah. And I think the encouraging thing is that they're doing that regardless of having a W8 in the streak column right now. As bad as it
may sound, what about getting rid of your boy Claude and getting like 5 first-round picks for him?
Oh, you think the Flyers should go full New Orleans Pelicans and just have the highest demands on the table there?
Oh God!
Can we talk about the Indiana Pacers fans really quick before we wrap this up and how savage they were last night?
So give a little background for those who didn't know.
So the Indiana Pacers were hosting the LA Lakers last night that have one LeBron James Sr. on the team, who, if you haven't been paying attention, which it means you're either not watching ESPN like Greg, because they talk about everything LeBron on that network, or really you don't go on any sports site because they just love to pump LeBron's tires. There's talks about LeBron trading a number of young, talented players from the Los Angeles Lakers to the New Orleans Pelicans for Anthony Davis. And last night, I believe it was Kyle Kuzma on the line in Indiana.
Brandon Ingram.
It was Ingram. It was Brandon Ingram. Thank you. And the Indiana Pacers fans start chanting, LeBron's going to trade you. And really getting after it. I mean, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then it comes out today that the Pelicans, their first offer that was turned down was a couple picks and a number of the bigger names, including Ingram, including Kuzma, including Lonzo Ball. And now apparently the Pelicans want like 5 first rounders, a couple second rounders, along with these guys, maybe a few more players. I mean, geez, it's a lot to ask for there. Apparently he's still under contract without an option through next year. So maybe they're just trying to call somebody's bluff and see if they can get some sort of offer because you have time to do it, but kind of wild.
No. So, they also announced today that they're going to bench him until after the
All-Star break?
No, until after the trade deadline's over. The coach announced that they're going
to that's Thursday afternoon, right?
They're going to bench Anthony Davis. Oh, so it's only 2 days, but I guess they announced that they're going to bench him because of all the talk and it's distracting and all that. So,
your funeral, man.
Well, I mean, what's a couple games for a guy's personal health, right? At some point, you got.
I guess that's a good point. Do you find it wild that the NBA trade deadline is before their All-Star game, and B, that it's so early in the season? Like the NHL trade deadline is going to happen, and they're all going to play like 60 games. The NBA, I'm not even sure how many games they're through, but it's almost a month earlier than the NHL's. The NHL starts before the NBA does.
So it's like the NFL. The NFL's trade deadline super early, but
that's a good point. Yeah,
I kind of like the later in the year. Like baseball has a super late one, but
they have the 2 trade deadlines, which I like.
The thing that's frustrating about baseball is like, make a team commit early to going all in or not, and that's the frustrating part is like come August or September or come August, September, whatever it is, whether you're in or not at that point for the most part. So, you're really taking a team that's in first place and either making them that much better as opposed to like a team that's close enough where they need a big piece to actually make it to the playoffs and make a run, right? So
yeah, that's true. Well, and the NBA has the buyout market and all that stuff. So I guess there's more transactions to be done.
There's pros and cons, but I personally, I don't know. So yeah, I mean, interesting to see where he ends up. But I think it's gonna be one of those situations where the Pelicans, they don't want to trade him. The guy just said he wasn't gonna sign a long-term deal. They don't want to get rid of him, but at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to be able to offer him a max contract and no one else if they hold on to him. So they will have the most compelling arguments to keep him in free agent in terms of monetary value.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, just wanted to get your thought on that. But anything else before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, I mean, another year ends, Jordy. Another Super Bowl championship for the greatest of all time. And words are just escaping me for how people ask, "Oh, is it too much? Oh, do you win too much?" Blah blah blah. But no, I don't get tired of it. I don't get tired of the praise. And
just remember what Mark Wahlberg tells his kids: it's not always going to be this great.
The thing that gets me is like year in and year out, they're a month behind or 2 months behind. I was watching. We were talking about the Pro Bowl last week, and some of those guys hadn't played in 3 weeks since the Pro Bowl, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, and the Patriots, year in year out, especially the last 3 years, they've played for a month, but they've been doing prep for a month after everyone else stopped. 3 years in a row, and yet they're still able to make it every year. They're still able to keep up their dominance. Really is impressive. That goes to the front office, that goes to the GM Belichick, and that goes to the players who are able to keep their bodies in good shape.
Yeah.
Now, a little scared because both the kicker and punter are free agents, but for the Patriots, and so is Cordell Patterson. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what.
In the meantime, Jordy, we're going for the Boston sweep. Go Bruins, go Celtics, and let's call it a pod.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Greg, for coming on and talking about this. It was fun to get your stories. I'm bummed we couldn't get Matty D on. Just couldn't line up the times correctly. You and I could do later. He could only do earlier. So everybody give Matty D a big boo, or go watch him be a degenerate on our Instagram feed, Thunderblog Sports. Thunder BLG, as Greg mentioned a few times, on Twitter, Thunderblog Sports on Facebook. Just like the website, thunderblogsports.com. I was going to write a blog today about those new MLB rules, but Greg and I got a good talk in about it, so I'm going to skip that and come up with a different blog to write for you. And I also ran out of time with work today, but that's going to do it. Thank you again to Greg the Prophet Piatelli. I am the G-Man, Jordy Cannell. Have a great weekend, everybody, and let's go Sixers, baby.